Ackman's Port Auburn Terminal District is now called to order. The machines are open for roll call. Let the record reflect that all 9 council members are present. I would ask and remind everyone intending to please ensure that their cell phones are turned off. Kim, next item on the agenda.
3, status report by the Executive Port Director.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for the time today, and I'd like to start off just kind of highlighting the port's grant strategy success and the progress. As of right now, we have over $70 million actually committed in between state and federal grants. And that's actually, those grants have been put in place over the last 18 months, and all are really going directly to public benefit. That $70 million includes the Alliance Water Booster Station. It includes the $18 million for the Point Lahash Ferry Landing Replacement, a diesel-electric ferry boat, and the Walker Road Bridge Engineering. So that comes up to about $70 million. And as of right now, in 2024, we have another two additional grants in the pipeline equaling about $40 million. And we feel confident that we will get at least one of those grants. So we've been working very diligently on the grant front. We've had some success, and we're going to continue to build on that success. I'm extremely happy to report that we executed the emergency repair contract for the Point Lahash Ferry landings, both East and West Bank. The port is funding that project in the tune of about $4.8 million. We have executed that contract with Deep South for the emergency services. We actually have signs in place on both East and West Bank. The notice to proceed was sent today in those repairs. The clock will start ticking on Monday. So we're excited. We had a call today. We will be having bi-weekly meetings, and we will also be coordinating community meetings. We've already talked about that with the East Bank with Reverend Edwards, but anybody else interested in scheduling community meetings to get an update, please let us know. Walker Road, the vehicle bridge, obviously we received a $7.4 million grant there. We are seeking a fund obligation date of October of 2024, and that will actually authorize us to start the engineering for that project. And we did receive the RFQ from the parish to start that process already. So we have a grant writer in our office today, and we will be focused on making this project move as quickly as possible. We've established between the port and the parish a groundbreaking day to finish the engineering of the third quarter 2026 and a completion date fourth quarter 2027 of actually completing the construction. Now, obviously, we backed into those dates, but we felt it was very important for us to establish some timelines to make this a real project because it's been talked about for a very long time. The Water Booster Station, that's an $18 million grant, Port Priority Fund from DOTD here in the state of Louisiana. We actually received the official letter this week on our 2024 funding. The way that grant works is the port will receive up to $5 million annually until we reach $18 million. So this $4.02 million funding that we received today, that takes us to about $9 million, and we have an additional $9 million to go. And we will receive the funding obligations for those for that additional funding over the next 2 to 3 years. One of the delays that we have right now on the Water Booster Station is we are waiting on some electrical components. So you guys probably see the platform sitting there. There's no movement on it right now, and those components are estimated to be here in the month of September and completely in place by October. And we're waiting on DOTD right now to make the award or to approve the award with Talbot. They're waiting on some documentation from us, which we should have complete tomorrow. And then we should be moving forward with that phase 2. And Venture Global, I'd like to point out that we did execute the lease officially on the Ports Administrative Building for Venture Global's office space on the 2nd floor. So that is in place. Everyone remembers that we finalized the lease, the first lease of the additional land, and we are anticipating receiving the payment, the first lease payment for that additional land in the tune of a little over $800,000. So that is going to go to the ports, increase the port's revenue. Just FYI, I think most people here have been notified, but the port will be participating with Venture Global on next Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. In a meeting, a startup meeting for the first vessel coming. The first vessel will be an import vessel, and they will partially load the tanks. They will be doing some flaring, and they're going to talk us through that process so that we all understand and we know how to respond to the community. The SP agreement, obviously, we're going to defer that today. I think we're going to have some further conversation about that. Jefferson Parish, Peters Road, they have clearly started their general surveying. And I talked to the mayor today, and I talked to their consultant. They actually executed the agreement with the Union Pacific for Union Pacific to start working with a contractor on that project. That is the Peters Road Rail Connection Project. And that concludes, actually, let me talk about one more thing before I conclude. I did send the financials, and I would like to just point out there was a little change in our financials because we actually we finalized over the last 2 weeks 2023. So that was completing all of the budget, updates and everything. So the net position is $116,866,084. Our unrestricted balance is now, after we completed everything, is $8,791,844. Our land balance is adjusted to $2,196,693. And then our revenues for the year, the revenues budgeted at $58,069,480 versus the actual right now is $13,884,255. Our expenses, $3 million below our revenues, which is $55,045,133 versus the expenses of $13,371,241. So I did provide a copy of this information to everyone. The other thing I want to point out and emphasize that we are introducing the Foley Judell, revenue bond process, and essentially what we will be doing there is creating options for us in moving forward to make sure that all of the projects that we have in hand, that if we need a revenue bond in place, we can put it in place. If we need a letter of credit, we can put that in place. It's about building options for us to be able to decide what to do at a later time. That concludes my report.
Anything from any of your other directors?
No, that's it.
Any comments from the floor?
Mr. David got up first.
Clarence Brox, 156 East Camelland. I hear with the water booster station. What is the water booster station? For drainage, or water to drink, or sewage? Or
No, it's to help facilitate pumping fresh water to the low end of the parish on the West Bank.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And then if I could just elaborate on that, it is for, to support port expansion. We want to make sure that as we're expanding, that the port is investing back into that infrastructure to support port growth.
Where will it be built? In Belchase or right by the port?
Across from Alliance Refinery.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Hi, David Clark, 108 Avenue A in Bell Chase. Just wondering about I know last meeting you mentioned something about some audit findings.
Mr. Clark, that hasn't been released, and this is public comment, not Q&A. So if you have a comment, please make it, but the audit has not been released and has not been
Hasn't?
approved by Louisiana Legislative.
Okay, all right.
Any other comments from the floor, from the commissioners? Commissioner Jurisic?
Yes, I see you want to defer the SP contract again. How much longer are we going to kick this down the road? I'm ready to call a vote.
I'm not.
Well, I am.
I'm not. I'm ready to. I'm not. I would like to. I'll comment on it. I met with Commissioner McCarty, and she had a great idea, and I asked her to head up the ability to meet with each of the commissioners, come up with some questions, and have them answer them directly, so we clearly understand and can articulate, where we are in this position. Because I don't know if we all fully understand. I'm still learning every time I read about this. And we met today, and she agreed to take that on. And I think it's someone else, a disinterested party, because I feel like in a way I've gotten so entrenched in it, I would feel more comfortable if she took a look at it with each of the commissioners and put together a list of questions. And I think she, if I'm not mistaken, if you'd like to speak on it.
Before you start, I still have the floor. How many more dents we going to put in this can before we vote on it? I yield.
Commissioner McCarty.
What I heard today was different from what I had understood previously by reading the contract and talking with other commissioners. And so I did say that I would talk with SP and ask for anybody's questions. I was ready to vote on it today, but now I have questions about whether or not it's clear what's going on. I yield.
Commissioner Edwards.
I was really confused about what you were saying, but the fact that Patty just saying that she will go to SP without question, totally the reason to me is out of order. The issue for me is that I don't know why I don't use the analogy misuse about kicking a can, but at this point, I don't know why talking to Patty gonna make a difference. Patty is not in position to make decisions. That's like talking to another commissioner to me. So me talking to Patty, I'm not even interested in talking to Patty because Patty can't solve the problem because she's a commissioner just like me. So I don't know what route we're using with this. Either we bring this to a vote and move on so we can do what's going to happen wherever the vote comes. There's some work got to be done. So you just delaying the inevitable so we can be back and forth this for another 2 months. I don't think unless something serious change, people already know how they're going to vote.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond?
Wait till each of the commissioners speaks. I think some of the questions may also be part of your response. Commissioner Schultz?
Yeah, I have serious concerns with that too, because I talked to our counsel, Mr. Garrett, on Tuesday and got legal opinions on that. And then we're going to go to SP and get their side of it. That's a totally different issue, but I want to challenge every commissioner here before we vote on it to go to the May 13, 2024 Senate Fiscal and Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Committee. House Bill 836 by Mr. McFarland deals with SP, directly deals with SP. And if you watch that committee meeting, some of the same questions we're going through right now was questioned by Senate committee members at the state level because of some of the questionable things that's going on. Like I said, I challenge every commissioner here to go watch that May 13th, House Bill 836, and just listen to some of the questions that was asked. Mr. Newsom, I showed him the other day, and now we're going to go to SP to ask their side, and like I said, we have counsel for a reason. My view is we should have never left the declaratory judgment last year. Looking back out on it, I yield.
Commissioner McCarty.
I agree that last year I did want the declaratory judgment, but just to clarify, Reverend Everett, I wasn't going to talk to them by myself. I was going to ask if any council members had questions to propose those questions to them and let them come speak to us. The only reason I'm doing this is after speaking with Mr. Champagne, I heard something different from what I had perceived previously, and I just don't know the truth. That's all. I was ready to vote today prior to that conversation. So now I'm just not sure what the truth is.
Commissioner Kognovich.
Sure, everybody knows my stance on this SP contract, but y'all could point your fingers at yourselves because y'all voted to get rid of the judgment. I voted against getting rid of it. We wouldn't be here today arguing about this.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah, again, the procedure with, we having a problem with SP and we acting another commissioner to intervene, to me, that's totally out of protocol for me. That's totally out of protocol for me. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how we move from having a problem to having a commissioner ask other commissioners questions and then we get it to SP. I mean, it really sounds ludicrous to me.
Commissioner Schultz.
Oh, I thought Mr. Conrad was. Look, I get what you're saying, Patty, all of us, but the problem is us as governance should not be going to the contractor to get the story. We have legal counsel, we have explanation from the port, we've all should have looked at the contract by now. To me, going to a contractor is not in our realm as governance to get their side of the story. That's just my view. I mean, I'm one of 9, but that's just my view.
Commissioner McCarty.
So I knew where I was going to vote earlier today. And then I heard something contradictory to what I had read, and I just don't know what the truth is. But if I go with my gut feeling would have been prior to just go ahead and vote today.
Commissioner Newsom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, this comes with no disrespect to Ms. Patty, but I've spoken, as Mr. Schultz said, we had a lengthy conversation with Mr. Garrett for about 30 minutes. I'm guessing, 35, 45. Oh, Mr. Garrett, don't charge us for all those hours. Don't charge. So I've spoken to Mr. Tillerson for at least 25 minutes. And also I've spoken to Chairman Champagne for over 30 minutes on this same issue. Ms. Patty, I've did my research and I did my due diligence. As Mr. Schultz explained, I've watched that hearing that he's talking about. I'll be honest with you, Ms. Patty, I don't need to speak with you about SP. I've spoken to the other folks that I have spoken to, and look, everybody's making their individual decisions. I want to talk to Mr. Konovich and tell him, Mr. Konovich, you're 100% correct. I voted, and probably not the, it was, and I can admit when I make mistakes, and it's a mistake I made. So let's, with this, I respect Mr. Champagne's decision. It's his legislation. I would like to vote, but if Mr. Champagne wants to defer it, that's his decision, it being his legislation, and I will respect his decision. Thank you, and I yield.
Commissioner McCarty.
I just want to make it clear, the only reason this came on my plate is because I'm vice chair. I was just taking on the responsibility. Okay. Could we ask Mr. Garrett to elaborate?
Let's let the
Is it possible?
Commissioner, I'd like to let the port director speak to this. He has to speak to it. Maybe he can bring some new information to light here. Commissioner Tillerson, Director Tillerson.
Thank you, thank you. I'm definitely listening to everyone, and I'm listening very closely. I've listened over the last couple of weeks, and based on what I've heard, and up until the email, Commissioner Jurisdiction that I got from you, that we saw last night, I put together late last night 5 different options, just really laying out what our options are, right? And I have a recommendation in there. So what I would like to ask is that I provide a copy of that to everybody today. And I think that there is a path. I think we do need to have some additional discussion, but I just want to make sure that I communicate. Reverend Edwards, I hear you. Commissioner Schultz, I hear you. I hear the concerns, and I stayed up late last night laying out some options for us on a path moving forward. There's some legal implications in there. I think I've discussed those with Mr. Garrett, and I think that I'd like to just have the opportunity to lay those options in front of everybody, and we have some further discussion. And I would agree, we need to bring this to a vote. I would hope that we can bring it at the next meeting, and we just look at the details. Lastly, it is a very complicated contract, probably one of the most complicated contracts that I've ever dealt with in my career. But I fully understand it. I've been through that contract over the last year. And I think that the recommendations that I'm putting forward, I think that the decisions that we might want to make today, I clearly laid what that option looks like, and I laid what some other options look like. I yield.
Commissioner McCarty.
This has become a very contentious item, and it doesn't feel, taking the feel of everyone here, it doesn't feel like things are going to change unless you can speak to that right now. I don't think it's going to go to the next meeting, because it's so sensitive to everyone. So, I yield.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Welcome any comments. And I'll tell you where I'm at on this. I have no allegiance to any party here other than the people of Plaquemines Parish. This is their business. This port is their business. This thing is going to generate generational wealth and revenue for the parish. We can't screw this up. And I'm not saying we are. And I know that it's going to take this type of contentious effort. And I don't look at it as ugly. I've told you all before, I love criticism. It makes me look at myself from a different perspective and try to get better. And you all know I've been blowing you up in emails late at night trying to make this thing better. I'm determined to make this port work for us. Is this the best course of action? I don't know. But I realize we didn't really have a solid plan B or a plan C. So if we do make a change, I talked to Director Tillotson and said, you've got to educate us on that. So if we do decide to go a different path, we need to know which one we're taking, plan B or C, and execute immediately, because time is money. We don't have a lot of time. So I agree with everything all of you are saying, and I don't take it personal. I think you guys are spot on. I had a long conversation with Commissioner Jurisdiction the other night, and he sensed my frustration. And I told him, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at a situation that we were put in before we got in these seats. And I don't blame the council before us. I think this thing had so many different layers that were veiled, and even they couldn't see. And I think towards the end they started to see that it had some challenges that we fully didn't understand. And I think that was the challenge that we've had to understand. Commissioner Kognovich, they got it. You got it early on. Commissioner LaFrance, and I've learned a lot from Commissioner Gouy on this thing. I think we need to make sure that we have a clear path forward, whatever that is. And I don't quite think we're there yet, but I am, and I committed each one I talked to that in 2 weeks this thing's happening, good, bad, or indifferent. But we need to know which path we're going to take. Is it the current one we're on now? Do we vote to keep the current contract? And if we change, what's that going to be? Because we owe that to, each of our constituents. We need to make this port successful. This is going to set conditions for generations beyond us. So that's where I'm at. And I don't think 2 more weeks will matter. And I would really like the director to have the opportunity to give us the pathway as he sees it. And I'll tell you, when I talked to Commissioner McCarty, all she was going to do was kind of get everybody together and find out, hey, what are your questions? So we can really give them to Director Tillotson and SP to tell us what they are. But I think we need to maybe get beyond that. And I appreciate, I mean, it was her idea. It was a good idea. I think Director, we need you to tell us what your plan B and C is. And so help me God, in 2 weeks, we're voting on this thing.
And I have that laid out, and I can pass that out today as we leave.
Will do. So with that, I want to defer. Oh, I didn't see you on here.
On,
Commissioner Schultz.
we're on update. So, as Mr. Newsom said, Mr. LaFrance, Mr. Cognovich, I'll admit when I was wrong. But back then, part of my issue was we were assured by in-house legal counsel, our counsel, staff, everything was good to go at that time, leaving the declaratory judgment. Now we're coming back later into me making changes, and I'm not comfortable with that. As a CPA, I went back and reread GASB 88, which is the how they're going about saying this is not debt and all this other stuff, and try to get a better understanding. And because most of my clients don't follow, I mean, this does not impact them. And I still, as a professional, 10-year CPA, have difficulty understanding how GASB 88 is playing into this role of this contract. Now, again, I might be wrong. There might be somebody with 30 years experience that can show me where I'm wrong. I'm not admitting that I'm always right. But Mr. Cognovich proved that, exactly. So I understand that we have questions and stuff, but in all honesty, we don't need to be going to port staff or SP. We need to be going to legal counsel, either in-house, outside, or, Ms. Garrett, or whatever legal counsel we have, because this isn't how they're interpreting it. It's what's the law. And maybe get an outside CPA to look at it and give us an explanation. My thing is, this is a very complicated contract, as Mr. Tilson said. It is one of the most complicated contracts I've ever ran across. What? The bridge one was pretty clear that we were, that one was clearly a bad deal. But again, 2 weeks it's one thing, but I've asked my questions to Mr. Tilson. I've had a long conversation with Ms. Garrett from the legality of everything. And this is just, again, me. From a legal standpoint, whatever Mr. Tilson puts out there is not going to change my opinion on this contract, because it's what legal has informed me of what our options are, not staff. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I don't trust Mr. Tilson. I'm just saying he's not a lawyer. He's not a CPA. He's a port director. And that's just my opinion. I yield.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Next item on the agenda.
4, bids and advertisements, there are none. 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
This is right here, Laura.
We have the following. A resolution authorizing the execution of a master goods and services agreement and riders to proceed with Phase 3 and Phase 4 of the 11-mile rail extension project and funding the additional cost for the project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Plaquemines Port to enter into a lease agreement with the Plaquemines Parish Emergency Operations Center and 911 Dispatch Center for a certain portion of the 3rd floor of the Popich Building and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2024 Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Operating Expenditure Budget, General Operations Division, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, MV Pride Dry Dock Project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution declaring the official intent of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to reimburse itself for expenditures with the proceeds of one or more series of revenue bonds and providing certain other matters in connection therewith. A resolution authorizing the executive director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to advertise for a request for proposals for professional legal services for the port and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the executive director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to advertise a request for quotes for building maintenance services for the administrative buildings and properties and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the executive director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to advertise a request for quotes for janitorial services for the port and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And an ordinance to amend the 2024 manpower structure, operating and expenditure budget, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And those are all filed by Commissioner Champagne.
Ms. Toops, can we move to the next item, please?
7A1, a resolution authorizing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to approve the repairs to the mooring pilings at the Scarsdale Ferry Landing on the East Bank, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And this is for Commissioner McCarty.
I'd like to motion to suspend the rules for the emergency ferry landing repair. I offer. Mr. Newsom, seconds. And please read again, please. Oh, votes, I'm sorry.
The machines are open.
Thank you.
8-4, Mr. Champagne had to step away. I motion to adopt the resolution a motion to,
A resolution authorizing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to approve the repairs to the mooring pilings at the Scarsdale Ferry Landing on the East Bank and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Commissioner McCarty.
I offer, and ask for a second. Mr. Newsom is second. Okay, are there any comments from the audience? From Port Administration?
Yeah, this is just a repair. We had a damage. It wasn't very significant, but it could cause some significant damage as the water rises. So, and there was a lead time on ordering this part. So we want to make sure that we get this fixed right away. And I can tell you that we've done some additional inspections, and we're going to make an assessment on maybe some other repairs that we want to consider making in the near future.
And right now, it's a bumper so that we don't damage the ferry.
It's a fender so that we
Fender,
don't
okay.
damage the ferry, and the amount is $66,000, which
Okay.
my limit is $50,000.
And any comments from the commissioners? Machines open. Kim? The calisthenics. Passes 8-1. Mr. Champagne is not voting, 8-0. Thank you. Next item, you can read it.
Item 6, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 6B will be deferred. 6C will be deferred. 6D, an ordinance to amend and as amended readopt ordinance number 2239, which created the legal department and the position of executive counsel of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Champagne, and this has changes.
And fill in the blanks. On line 36, we're putting in the date of August 31st, 2024. In section 2 on line 50, we're inserting today's date, July 25th, 2024. And there is a change on line 52. The language "be filled as to begin on blank" has been removed. And the sentence ends after the position of executive counsel. And then on line 59, the amount of 120,000 to 140,000 per year.
Wait. Wait, I thought the change on that, Director Tillotson was going to.
I'd like to offer changes, so we're seeing 140,000 here. The previous executive counsel, as she departed, her salary was 162. I'd like to offer with changes, make it 160, because it is going to be very difficult to find an attorney for $120,000 to $140,000 annually. So I'd like to offer it with changes and actually have the changes on the document.
Don't we have to offer and second this with changes?
Was it, I mean, y'all never offered with the change. Right.
But he wants an amendment to the change.
You're gonna amend it again, if it was offered with changes, then you're gonna make a subsequent amendment. I think you have to have a motion to amend the proposed ordinance. It was never offered. Yeah,
It was never.
it was never offered yet, right.
She said changes and then nobody offered all that second.
You need to offer.
So, yeah, I offer with the changes,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Newsom. And I would like to offer an amendment for 160. And in all fairness, I'll tell you, it was my idea, getting with Director Tillotson, because I'll explain after. I offer and ask for a second for 160.
It's an amendment.
Amendment for 160. Can I have a second? Second by Commissioner Gui. And we vote on the amendment? You have any comments from the floor? Comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Kokrovich?
Yes, she left at 160. She didn't start there. She got, the deputy port director gave her more money, then a raise gave her more money. So she started, I think, 120. 125. So.
So that, if I could respond, the change that I have here is 140, range 140 to 160. If that would be acceptable, it's actually on
Well,
the.
if we voting on it right now and I'm looking at it, what you think I'm gonna ask for? 160, huh?
Commissioner Schultz?
Yeah, I'm basically saying the same thing as Ms. Kongovich is the previous executive counsel was hired at 125. Then she became deputy port director, which is what got her up to 150 and then raises since then with the budget. So, I mean, if we hired Ms. Foltz at 125, having a range between 120 and 140, I don't see for just executive counsel why this is so different than what Ms. Foltz was hired at. I yield.
Commissioner McCarty?
I'd like to know if it'd be possible to find out who we're going to select first, the quality of that person, and then figure out what we're going to pay, and not go above a certain amount. Say that we won't go above a certain amount when we're doing this, because I'm hoping that we get somebody with more experience, actually, than Ms. Foltz. So is that even possible?
Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, but my concern is, I can't look at what Melissa was making, but if we're saying we got serious problem, we need to bring experienced, qualified people in here, so we don't have to be calling Mr. Garrett, calling this one, bring somebody with serious experience in. So we got to put some money on the table to make that happen. I take the position while Melissa got the amount of money, she didn't have the experience of what we need. Right now, we talking about not bringing somebody on who had Melissa's experience. By my understanding, we want to bring somebody on who had experience that exceeded what she had. Someone who had really legal experience and the kind of legal knowledge and background that this folk needs so we can move forward. So we wouldn't have to be in a predicament like we are with this issue that we just passed over. They would have some knowledge. So I'm not against putting money on the table to make sure we get quality people, because you're gonna get what you put out there. If we want somebody to come in, as we say, who have really serious legal expense, then we gotta put money on the table. You're gonna track what your dollars say. So we saying so I'm saying if we really want to get somebody in the experience, then we got to put some money on the table to bring quality people in. So I don't have any problem, because I think it will attract. I think if we put 120, 140, then you get some people who don't have experience. But if you think you put something on 160, somebody says, okay, this worth me coming in with my years of experience.
Commissioner Gui.
I can't say it any better than Commissioner Edwards. You're gonna get what you pay for. And I know what we need. And if we're gonna get what we need, I've read emails back and forth about what we felt we needed as an attorney with port experience. And so I will support the amendment.
Commissioner Jurisic.
I would almost support leaving that blank. Let people with experience come in and show us what they have. And if we feel like they're worth every penny, then we make that, they give us a fee, we decide if we can do it or not. Because if you put as Councilmember Conovich said, you put 160, they're gonna want 160. If you leave it open-ended, we may get a real ringer and say, hey, you know what? We may have to come up with a couple more nickels. I just think, as Reverend Edwards said, to get somebody, I think putting a figure right now could be shooting ourselves in the foot. That's all.
I'm in agreement.
Commissioner Newsom.
Yes, I worked, myself and Mr. Champagne worked on this legislation, over a month. The number got pulled from the introduction we had for CFO. One just, what looks good out there? Let's say it was pulled from the same introduction that we made for CFO, and that's kind of where it came from. Consulted with Mr. Champagne on it, and we were good with I'm just giving background on where the number come. It wasn't just, I didn't go to Indeed.com, or me and Mr. Champagne didn't go to Indeed, or didn't go to whatever, all the sites, or I don't know. But we just kind of put it in line with the other, what we thought were good with other port staff members that we are trying to hire. So that's where that come. With that I yield. Thank you.
Commissioner Schultz.
Again, I want to know, so the original changes were sent out Tuesday at 1 o'clock with the salary range of 120 to 140. When was this new change? Because I don't like getting to the table and all of a sudden throwing a complete curveball and saying, hey, we're going to up the salary, and we had no chance to really discuss it. Now we're having to discuss this in public and figure out, well, do we need to do more research? Do we need to look at other port? I mean, these numbers just didn't come out of thin air, like Mr. Newsom said. So I don't like getting to the table and having another curveball. Like, all of a sudden we're making an amendment at the table, and it's like changing, I mean, that's increasing $20,000. I know it's in the big picture of things, but I'm almost, I don't know legally if we can, but Mr. Jurisic, leave it blank, but I yield.
Commissioner Jurisic.
Yes, can I offer a substitute motion to leave it blank?
I'll second that.
Unanimous second.
Almost sounds like a unanimous second.
Danny, that's a question for you.
Yeah, because there's a motion to amend, and he would be making a substitute motion to essentially make a different amendment. You can leave it blank, but it means, it doesn't, I think the issue is going to be is then when you advertise for this position,
How much?
you're not telling anybody what, but look, there are times, there are times when there are positions offered, and in the ad, it doesn't tell you how much it pays. It says that information will be provided later, and then essentially people would then be applying for the job without knowing what it was being paid. But I think you're going to get people who have a notion of what they would need. And there would be a situation where if you selected somebody, you'd have to make an offer to him, and he'd have to have the authority to do that.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah, I thought I've seen things where they say salary negotiable. That's the language I've seen, but salary is negotiable based on experience.
And I'll give you an example from very recent news in my hometown in Baton Rouge. They just voted last night to hire a new school superintendent. Now they will negotiate a contract with that school superintendent. So nobody knows how much he's going to get paid yet until there's a contract negotiated with a number in it. Then the school board will have to ratify it.
Commissioner McCarty?
I think we need to increase the quality overall of the people who work for us. And I agree with what Mr. Jurisic is saying. However, can we say commissionable upon, based on experience? And then we get to see the people who apply for this job before we decide what we would offer. Is that even possible? Okay.
Commissioner Newsom?
Yes, sir, thank you. Only one question, and again, Mr. Jurist, I have no problem with, if we want to leave it blank, if it's legal, that's no problem. My question comes, I guess, to Danny and Charles. When we start the interview process, who has the authority to negotiate this salary?
We do.
Yeah, so I mean, the way that I understand that it would work is I have to get approval for whatever the salary is offered. So
So it ultimately come back to the commission?
comes back to the commission.
Thank you, I'm good. I'm good with
And
it.
then once we agree, then we'll do a budget amendment.
Well, we've had some contracts in the past that didn't come back to this commission.
I don't think it's been done properly.
Not gonna be a contract.
Any other comments from the commissioners? I'd like to add something. First of all, thank you, Commissioner Newsom, for putting this together. We got together and he was, you were the lead on that, so I appreciate us working together. And again, the appearance may look that we feud amongst each other, and it's not that. We get along well, and it's just, we feed off each other's enthusiasm. We have different views, but we do respect each other's opinion. And I'll tell you, the 160, that was my idea. Based on the conversation we had, Chris, and we're looking at trying to hire the position for the port, trying to get somebody that has CPA credentials. We couldn't get anybody. I'm like, we might be in the same boat, or we get somebody who's not qualified, and we find ourselves chasing our tail, trying to get legal help and paying more per hour to get somebody else to give us the advice that we should have got from the legal person we hired. So that's where that kind of came from. I said, what was she getting paid? I said, let's just go with that. And I looked, and Charles had sent out some information that showed that the Gulf Coast average was 162. So it was below that. I'm like, okay, we're in that ballpark. So that was my thought process. I just wanted to share that with you guys. But I'm not opposed to putting that like negotiable, however you want to word it. I just think that we have to be prepared for somebody who might say, mate, we got a good person. They want 170. I mean, that's what we could be setting ourselves up for. But again, we just have to be aware of that.
You pay for
I agree. As long as I'm flexible with that. I think
I'm flexible.
I'm one of 9. I think if we're all in agreement with that, ultimately we owe it to our constituency to get the best bang for our buck and somebody with port experience. I think we've all said we want port experience. So with that, I would like to offer, I guess, would that be an amendment? Or would just make the changes, instead of 120 to 140, make it negotiable? Or leave it blank? I don't know how,
Well, right now, there's
one on the
a
table.
pending substitute motion on the floor. The only way you could go back is if he would withdraw his motion, and then you would withdraw your motion, and then someone make a new motion to put that the salary shall be as
is there an easy way to just wipe the slate clean? I withdraw my change.
I don't have to withdraw mine. We can actually vote on the substitute motion.
Let's vote on it. Substitutes, leave it blank. Let's vote on leaving it blank.
You withdraw yours
I withdraw.
I don't have to withdraw anything.
Just me.
You don't have to withdraw yours either.
He don't have to withdraw his.
So you have a substitute motion on the floor. If it is not withdrawn, you have to vote on it before you can move forward.
Let's vote on it. Mr. Conover said he called for questions. Let's vote on it. Substitute motion.
So we vote on the original.
No, leave it blank.
Leave it blank. All right.
I don't even.
Yeah, it makes it a little confusing.
It is confusing.
But just leaving it blank, that's simple. It's not blank.
Let the record say the motion passed, 8 in favor, 1 against, for leaving it blank.
As amended with the
And just to get that,
I offer as amended with, based on experience and being blank, salary blank. Seconded by Commissioner Edwards. Machine's open.
wait, I'm still,
public comment.
Any comments from the audience? From the
Mr.
commissioner?
Brown? You good? Okay.
He's wore out too.
You confusing me?
The machines are open. And the motion passes 9-0. Where we at? Which are we on? 60.
E, a resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council acting as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, authorizing and directing the engagement.
Kim, we're going to defer this one. Commissioner McCarty wants to defer this one.
8, approval of the July 11th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Offered by Commissioner Koknovich, seconded by Commissioner LaFrance. Machine's open.
Commissioner Edwards?
Motion to adjourn, anyone? Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Jurisich, second by Commissioner McCarty.
Don't let.
Machines are open.
Edwards vote no, don't let. I'm gonna tell. I love this thing.
Yeah.
Councilmember Field?
And the motion passed 8-1. Let the record state that the meeting of the Plaquemines Council Sole Government Authority of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District has now ended at 4:30 on July 25th, 2024.
4:35. 4:35.
4:35.